instead of saving Kahndaq, Harut chose to save me.
James Gunn stirred up quite a bit of conversation recently with comments he made about Black Adam and Shazam: Fury of the Gods. At first, it sounded like he really didn't like those movies, but it turns out his frustration wasn't with the films themselves. It was more about how some of his characters were used in them without his involvement or creative input. That clarification came after his interview with Den of Geek on July 21st, where he was asked about the canonicity of John Economos and Emilia Harcourt's appearances in those two films. His initial response, "They're not canon, I hate it," sparked some backlash, which Gunn then tried to clear up on Threads just a few days later. He explained that his frustration wasn't directed at the movies as a whole, but rather at how his characters were used. From Gunn's point of view, those characters didn't belong in those settings because the version of Harcourt in Black Adam, apparently working as a prison warden underwater, just didn't line up with anything Gunn had written or planned for her in Peacemaker or the Suicide Squad. He also pointed out that Amanda Waller wouldn't realistically have had anything to do with the Justice Society either. So it's not that Gunn disliked the movies, it's that their use of characters from his projects didn't make much sense to him, especially when there wasn't any consistency or setup across films. That kind of disorganization pretty much sums up what a lot of people were feeling about the old DCEU. Things just felt slapped together sometimes, with directors and writers making choices on the fly without any shared plan. Harcourt and Economos showed up randomly in Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and Black Adam is a perfect example. Nobody really knew what those cameos were leading to. Maybe Black Adam was going to link up with Task Force X, and maybe Shazam was being lined up for the Justice Society, but there was no clear roadmap. Now though, with James Gunn officially in charge of the new DC universe, all that scattered energy is getting pulled into one big, interconnected plan. And that's where it gets really exciting. Because if Gunn is planning to reimagine Black Adam in this new continuity, there's serious potential for a much stronger story. And let's be honest, Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam movie had its moments, but the story didn't land as hard as it could have. A lot of fans felt like it leaned more into spectacle than substance, and the connections to the rest of the universe felt forced. That's not necessarily The Rock's fault, but with James Gunn now building out his Gods and Monsters DCU slate, there's a good chance Black Adam could get a fresh start. And if that rebooted version of the character ends up crossing paths with David Cornswit's Superman, it could be something truly epic. That kind of clash deserves the kind of storytelling depth Gunn is known for. Plus, there's already a subtle setup happening. Gunn confirmed that Dr. Fate exists in the DCU. He's actually visible on the mural in the Hall of Justice scene with Superman. While he hasn't confirmed who will be playing him, the image really does resemble Pierce Brosnan's Kent Nelson from Black Adam. That opens the door to Brosnan returning, which would be a great way to connect the old with the new, especially since Dr. Fate was one of the best parts of that movie. Still, if Gunn is rebooting Black Adam, it's possible he'll go with a totally different casting choice too. So who could take over the role in the DCU? That's a fun question to think about. Ideally, you'd want someone who can match the power and presence of a demigod, but who also brings complexity and nuance. Someone like Yahya Abdul-Mateen II could really nail it. He's already proven himself in Watchmen and Aquaman, and while he's playing Wonder Man over at Marvel now, that doesn't necessarily rule him out. Then there's Luke Evans, who's got both the intensity and the regal aura to pull off a darker, more mysterious Black Adam. Joe Manganiello could have worked too, but he's been tied to Deathstroke before, although with Gunn in charge, anything's possible, especially if he wants to give actors a fresh start. Another interesting option could be Alexander Skarsgård. He's got the range, the physicality, and the brooding energy that would suit a more serious, magic-fueled antihero. And if Gunn wants to lean even deeper into the mythological angle, Rami Malek might bring something unique and unpredictable to the role. The point is, Gunn's got options, and whoever he picks, we're likely to get a version of Black Adam that fits much more cleanly into the broader narrative of the new DCU. What makes this all even more promising is how Gunn is being so clear about continuity this time. He's already said that when something from the old DCEU is referenced or acknowledged in a DCU project, That's what makes it canon. That means parts of Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad still count, but the random cameos in Shazam and Black Adam, not so much. That kind of clarity is a big change from how things used to be. Looking at the future, Superman will be laying the groundwork for a whole bunch of heroes. In fact, the Hall of Justice mural alone hints at so many possibilities. Dr. Fate, Guy Gardner, and other hidden characters that sharp-eyed fans are still trying to identify. And with Kent Nelson's image already included, that opens the door for more Justice Society characters, which could naturally lead to Black Adam making a return, but this time in a way that's being planned from the beginning. Also, if you think about it, a new Black Adam story could easily work as a solo film or as part of a larger crossover. If Gunn wanted to tell a more grounded, morally complex origin story for Black Adam, maybe starting in ancient Kahndaq and showing how he became corrupted by power, that could give the character real depth. Then, later on, he could reappear in a clash with Superman or even face off against the Justice League or the Justice Society. And who's to say we won't get some connections to the darker corners of the DCU too? The third season of Invincible, for instance, hinted at devils and demons showing up in animated superhero stories, and the DCU has its fair share of mystical characters. If Dr. Fate is in the mix, it's not a stretch to imagine Black Adam facing threats from the magical realm, or perhaps being tempted by them. James Gunn's Gods and Monsters phase could very well explore that territory. We already know that the DCU is going to include supernatural characters like Swamp Thing and possibly even Constantine. So why not weave Black Adam into that corner of the universe instead of just making him a brute who throws lightning? That way, the character becomes more than just a brawler. He becomes a crucial piece of the magical mythos in the DCU. And while fans wait to see how that all comes together, it's good to remember that the groundwork is being laid very deliberately this time. James Gunn and Peter Safran are building something that feels more structured, with more creative vision behind it. That doesn't mean everything will be flawless, but it does mean we're far less likely to see the kind of disconnects we got with cameos that went nowhere and setups that fizzled out. So if a new Black Adam is coming, and it really looks like that's on the table, then count me in. Whether he ends up clashing with Superman, joining the Justice Society, or battling some ancient evil, the key is that it all fits into one coherent universe. And if that means rebooting Black Adam with a new actor, a new origin, and a better connection to the rest of the DCU, then it's a change worth making. Because sometimes the best stories are the ones that start over with a clearer purpose. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.